Welcome back, everyone, to the first official episode of Prod.cast. And today we are going to talk about the very thing that is on everyone's minds right now. We are still in the COVID situation here in Singapore, and it's been 1 year since the circuit breaker. I think it's a bit more than 1 year, right, guys?
Slightly more.
Yeah, it's been more
Yeah.
than 1 year. Because last year during circuit breaker, we ended in June. But now it seems like we might be heading to another one because we are now currently back to the COVID phase 2 heightened alert. For any listeners that might not be in Singapore, can any of you guys let us know what is it about?
So anyway, phase two heightened alert is some sort of like it's a semi lockdown. We don't call our lockdowns in Singapore. It's called circuit breaker. Coming out of circuit breaker last year, we had this thing called phase one, which is like coming out of like letting a bit more than just essential services operate. And then we went into phase two for I think half a year, right? We were in phase two from like end of June last year to December, and then they went to phase three. And phase three was pretty much almost back to normal, except that everybody was still wearing masks. And earlier this year, we went into a more relaxed phase three where they said, okay, you can start bringing back more than 50% of your workforce back to the office, up to 8 persons doing a social visit to your house. A lot of things were eased up. And then suddenly we had a new outbreak of the B1617 variant. They rolled us back into phase two just before Hari Raya. And they said, okay, no more than 5 visitors. They didn't restore the work from home mandate until after Hari Raya, the day after actually. They suddenly said, okay, we're going into heightened alert. So now it's from 5 persons, it's gone down to 2 persons social visiting, and then work from home is gonna be the default. So and so and so and so. So they are tightening up all the measures, and the cases are still not going down. I mean, you don't see the effects of the measures until 2 to 3 weeks later. So I think the case numbers are gonna go up, and we're probably gonna go back into another circuit breaker. I don't know. I mean, looking at the trends, looking at the amount of people being infected and the capacity that our medical and healthcare services have, I think it might be inevitable, but hopefully they don't, because it's gonna be a really like tough. But it's gonna be tougher for businesses and people to come back from that after it's done.
Correct me if I'm wrong, none of us here work full time in offices, right? Like, safe to say that most of us, even if we do own our own businesses, we are still sort of considered freelancers in a way. Yes?
Yeah, yeah. Not wrong to say that.
How has it been affecting you guys as freelancers?
Maybe for me, one of the things is because since as a tutor, one of the main thing that is impacted is definitely no physical classes supposed to be conducted at this period of time. So a lot of the classes are now shifted to online. So most of the time, I'm actually spending more in front of the computer conducting lessons for students. So those are, I think, the big changes that I would say that I'm feeling right now. Yeah, and also adapting physical classes mindset and also adapting to online classes. I think those are more of the bigger challenges because I'm quite I prefer physical class. Even when last year during circuit breaker, despite having quite earlier exposure to online teaching than most of my peers, most of my colleagues, or most of the people in the same industry as I do, but I feel that I wasn't fond of that. So I was always constantly looking forward to having physical class. But I kind of find that it's slowly getting to the point that this online class teaching or this online teaching is going to be the norm for many of the lessons conducted in Singapore gradually. That's how I feel.
No, I think it's inevitable that the classes are going to move online. But of course, the value of face to face is still there, lah. But like they always say, you have to evolve and adapt, otherwise, otherwise you'll be obsolete.
Yeah, it is one thing that over the last 1 year having to be being stuck in this COVID pandemic situation is like I think I realized that the adapting is really the more important part of everything right now. Like a lot of things, I personally am not one who will stay at home for a long time before COVID. Like I've calculated like my whole 10 years, I probably stayed the longest at home was the 1 year that I have throughout this whole pandemic actually. So I would say that it's slowly getting to me that I used to go out and do my work even if I have empty spaces or free time. I will just go to the nearest cafe to sit down and do my work, etc. Suddenly, I'm now constantly have to be homebound. Yeah, so I think that is the sudden mindset change that I need to have, and I suddenly have to like convert my whole home into a legit working space. So again, this is something that I feel that for this really caused me to really change and adapt during this pandemic.
That's the same for you as well, right, Basil? Like you mentioned previously that you need to move most of your equipment from the office back to your home so that you can function there properly.
Only the computer lah, actually, computer and all the hard disk and stuff, because like I definitely can't store the equipment at home anymore. I mean, that used to be the case, but not anymore because there's just too much equipment now. So, but then we don't have to. I mean, the computer you can bring around. Ma. I mean, it's just an iMac. Just bring it from office to home, so that's not that much of a problem. So it keeps us going in a way, so that I don't have to go to the office. But at the same time, I'm also wondering, like, the longer this carries on, the more the more the strain is going to be put on the business, because we have overheads to pay for, and clientele is coming in, but things have been postponed, and a lot of, how to say, there's a lot of clients who potential clients actually, who um may not be comfortable in starting projects because they don't know when. There's no definite answer as to when we're gonna go into a lockdown, or something like that. Everybody's tightening their wallets, So not just us, even the clients are doing that. Even the government is doing that. So everybody's weathering some crazy storm right now.
Is it hard for you guys though that uh despite that we are all freelancers and now most of us are homebound, like is it hard that for you guys the fact that you have to work from home a lot more than you used to, that you cannot really separate, like you find yourself constantly not being able to separate your personal life, your personal time from your work time?
Honestly speaking, for me, oh gosh, I have that tendency, but one of the reason is because uh, I s- I am I am already a workaholic by nature. So by putting myself constantly at home, there was one point of time I think even for this year also, like this recent 1 week that I'm starting working from home, and also since last year when I was working from home, I realized that I have a tendency of I can't differentiate or recognize whether I'm in a weekend or weekday.
Wow, that's bad.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
legitimately like working to the point that I woke up, the first thing I just switch on my computer, and then only when I was still working and working and working to the point that when I look at the time and the date at my top right hand corner of my Mac, then I realized that, oh dear, it's actually Saturday. Oh dear, it's actually Sunday. Oh dear, it's actually Monday. And to me, it led to no difference for any of the day. Hence, I really conditioned like I'm just working. So that was the main problem for me. Yeah, I managed to tweak that back during phase three, because during phase one and two, technically speaking, I was still stuck at home working. It was only near close to December last year that I finally have the chance to really go out and do any physical lesson with anyone. So even then, I need some time to get used to, oh, it's already weekend. And then slowly once, and I realized that in the momentum actually start coming building back for the last 5 months, and then this thing happened again. And my first week actually, uh, I didn't even realize that it was Thursday until this morning.
Oh damn. The last time I felt this way that you did, that you are right now, sorry, was when I was serving my national service. Because back then my national service was in shifts. It was in rota form, so it was like 2 morning, 2 nights, then 2 off. Wow, it was very hard to differentiate which day was which day. Especially when sometimes when we have like certain cases or accidents on or stuff like that, we will just be on 24-hour standby. It was really really hard. So wow, like really hats off to you, man, for going through what you're going through right now.
No, I can relate to that because like there have been, the thing is when your editing platform is 5 meters away from your bed or something like that. You know how annoying it gets, like when you have a project that perhaps it's not really due, but you know you're working on it and it's sitting there, and you just have the urge to complete it before the deadline, right? Like way before the deadline. I mean, if it's sitting there, then you're like, oh, should I be the responsible should I be responsible by doing finishing the work, or can I just leave it for the next working day? Having your editing station in the office does that to you, because it no does actually does a good thing for you, because you're not bound by the fact that you see it when you wake up in the morning, and you see it before you sleep, because so that like in a way that where if your work is in the office, you know that you have to go into the office at a certain time, and you know that you have to finish it, and you have to do it until the time comes for you to go home, and then when you go home, then that's it. There's no work waiting for you at home.
Yeah, it's more like it's out of your hands kind of thing, right? Like if your work is in the office, you go in the office, your mindset switch to work mode. When you choose to leave the office, whatever time it may be, once you step out, once you get on the bus or the train or the grab home, you know that there's nothing else waiting for you at home. And even if there, like, let's say you're on the way home, or if you're already at home and you receive a text from a client say, hey, I want this changed, you know you can't do anything about it until tomorrow. But when all your stuff is at home, right, you kind of feel like, shit lah. I think I should
Correct,
just
correct.
do it lah. You know.
Correct. So the problem is I think a lot of people in the workforce, like the people who are gainfully employed, I think they face this issue too, because now everybody work from home. So the question we need to ask is, where are the boundaries? I think boundaries are very important, especially when it comes to work. Because otherwise you have our friend here, do work until he don't even know what the day is. I've had that problem too, where I thought today is Friday, but it's actually Thursday kind of thing. I mean, a lot of people think working from home is great, blah blah blah. You get to dress down or whatever. I mean, yeah lah. I agree with that to a certain extent, but the boundaries need to be very clear.
Yeah, I agree with what Bess say about this portion, which is the boundary need to be set. And quite honestly, one of the hard, but the challenging part is really how to set the boundary.
Kim, have you found any success doing that? Or if you have not, how do you intend to start doing that?
To be honest, I genuinely have not got into that thought. But for me, one of the things that I did in order to ensure that I have that sort of boundary for the last, it's only these few days I started beginning to do it, is I tend to switch off. I tend to set myself that within a certain timing I'll just switch off. Like
Mm,
I wouldn't be touching the computer, I mean touching anything maybe say dinner time.
mm.
So most of this so far has been what I intend to do for the next 3 weeks, if this heightened alert is still on, and if they said it's lasting only within this few period, I will likely just do so from there. Like after a certain timing, I'll just not answer any calls, not answer any messages related to work.
Yeah, I think that's a very good practice to have lah. Actually, for me, it hasn't really been too much of a difference, even pre-COVID, because my job is a lot simpler. My job is, I go out and shoot for the day, I'll come back, I'll edit, I'll send to my client, and that's it. There isn't really a lot of after work service, if that even makes any sense. So even when circuit breaker hit, it didn't really affect me too much, because if I'm not able to go out to shoot, I don't have anything to edit, right? And once my editing is done, it's done. So I don't really find myself reaching for the computer or for my work stuff like a lot of my other friends do. I mean, I think honestly, this particular problem doesn't hit us freelancers that heavily. It hits more of our friends who are having full-time employment, because I do have friends who work full-time in offices, and when they switch over to work from home, right, they are still on Zoom calls and on whatever, even like 9, 10, 11 p.m. because their boss will be like, oh, since you guys are at home and your laptop is just right there, let's have a meeting now. And it's not like they have a say to say, oh no, I don't want, you know. So I think it affects them a little bit more than us. But for me personally, it doesn't really affect too much lah. Plus I think I have been able to find some success in turning off or switching off my work mindset. So like after certain timings, even if I do get text messages that's about work, I usually choose not to reply them. I'll read it, but I won't reply. Because I have set my WhatsApp actually to have an auto message, which I think you guys have kena before.
Yeah.
Like, after a certain timing, then you will see, what, please, I'll text you tomorrow. It's kind of this kind of stuff. So even when I do open the chat with my client and I see my own auto message, it reminds me not to reply and not to do any work now. So I guess that in
Okay.
a way
Yeah, that's good.
helps.
That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, cause I also do this thing where I don't speak to clients anytime outside 10 to 6 unless I want to. So it's like if you're my client and I talk to you outside my published working hours, then it's a bonus lah. It's an exception, it's not the rule. So that's what I do, and I encourage my team to do that as well lah.
Okay, let's talk about how this whole thing is affecting not just us but Singapore as a whole. Basil, you said you were part of the moderator or founder or something on the SG
Oh,
freelancers group on Facebook,
the
right?
SG creative community.
SG creative community. So how is it like there?
The fire is raging, man.
Well, eh?
That's all that's all I can say. I mean, last year we got a lot of okay, so the thing is, um last year when it all started happening, there was a lot of confusion and a lot of panic and a lot of dismay about like, who's gonna help us, etc., etc., etc. How's gonna how are we gonna carry on, blah blah blah, and all that stuff, right? And although we're not really seeing a lot of those kind of complaints this year, I think people are still suffering. Yeah. Um, like I've heard like stories of like friends wanting to sell their gear, people wanting to like it's pretty much the same as last year. People wanting to let go of their office leases. They're not sure whether they want to continue doing this, or should they just go and find a full time job or a secondary income source to type by. Just today, I had an actor friend tell me that he just signed up for a real estate agent course, and he's starting end of the month because it's a bit tough for him to carry on after so long. Like he said he'll still be acting, but the real estate thing is gonna be like primary for him lah. You know.
I did came
Yeah.
across I did came across last year this guy. He was an actor as well, and he was also doing training. And apparently that even before last year's pandemic hit, he was already on this mindset that this is not going to last because this pandemic is going to hurt everyone. So he has also he actually went into digital marketing, and I realized that uh, this happens to quite a number of people in the art industry. Like I saw some of my friends from Facebook, they just transit to, oh, I'm a trainer. Oh, now I'm officially a trainer. Now I'm officially a digital marketer. Oh, I'm this and that. Sort of like they in a way is actually hurting them more, especially when last year when they released that non-essential, like artists are
Yeah,
non-essential.
man,
Yeah,
that
that
was
was terrible.
nonsense.
That was terrible. That was really bad. I take umbrage at that.
Yeah. Wow, wow, wow. Shots fired.
That's why I find that at this stage it's really, I really felt pity and sympathize with all these group of people, because I always like I met some of them when I was doing acting classes, and some of them are really very talented and passionate group of people, and yet because of circumstances like this they have to move away from their job. It's kind of be a waste but it's a
Yeah.
no choice thing.
Yeah. I think the worst hit people are the people who do live music, man. Like, when is the last time you actually heard a band play in a pub?
I mean, we haven't ourselves stepped into a pub in quite some time as well, lah. So
It's been a year plus law since circuit breaker law.
What's a
Yeah.
pub, man? What's a pub,
Yeah.
man? When everything needs to be closed at 10:30.
Or even live music. You know the Esplanade open air. When's the last time you actually heard a band play there? Or saw a band playing there?
it really has been a while, lah. Circling back to the article that SK mentioned, right? The one that pits like what are the more essential jobs and stuff. Actually, 1 year later, it really doesn't make sense. It doesn't hold up at all, because even looking at the Facebook group that you're a part of, Basil, I can honestly say that us freelancers, us artistic people, right, are actually one of the more resilient ones out there.
We are. People don't see that. We have all these like support schemes that come out to help us to tide over with our income and all that. But that's actually not. It doesn't even begin to cover like most of the income that we receive. While I'm not. This is not gonna. I don't want this to turn into a rant, lah. But people who are gainfully employed, their salaries are kind of protected because they have this job support scheme. The employer is technically covered with a percentage of their income to make sure that they get their full salaries. However, we rely on things like SIRS, which is like uh I mean it's good help, but it definitely does not cover the for some people, for some self-employed people who currently we are kind of lucky because we are not like married with kids, right? But for self-employed people with kids, it doesn't even cover like the basic necessities.
It was like what, 9,000 for 9 months, right?
Nine thousand over 9 months, yeah. So it's about 1,000 a month. So it's like a whole it was like a whole change of mindset kind of thing. Suddenly people who were earning like comfortable maybe 2 to 3K or 3 to 4K kind of thing a month suddenly got no jobs, and then they have to rely on that 1K a month to type by and whatever savings that they have. So the problem, I think the problem here is that there's a lot of people who feel that self-employed people and freelancers um, are not formal workers, which is really really a huge problem because um, there are no how to say like for example you take for example an actor, right? There is no there is no way you can define an act an actor's job as being formal or non-formal because there's no company hiring actors on a full-time basis. Probably the only one is MediaCorp, lah, but I don't know if they're doing that now. Yeah, I heard they are not. So yeah,
Oh, they're not.
yeah. This one I think they're not. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But even so, it's still my point is still valid because even if they are the only one, even if they're hiring actors, they are the only ones doing so. There's no like other competition. There's no like somebody starting up another like actor company and just hiring actors and paying actors full time salaries. There's no such thing like that. How can you just perceive us as informal workers? You know. Yeah, which is actually a big problem. It's a big mindset issue with Singapore. You're only considered like on a certain level, or you're only considered uh integral to the economy when you are a formal worker earning a salary at a company. And to them, the definition of formal work is of course you have salary, you get paid your CPF, your company pays your CPF, your MediSave, and then you use your CPF to buy a house, etc., etc., etc. So to change that requires a whole system kind of change. So it's not just like it's not just like so simple. It requires a whole paradigm shift, which is I think a bit too heavy of a subject to talk about.
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
actually kind of valid because I don't know if I genuinely don't know if the people actually realize that it's not just actors but self-employed. This whole term, the number of people in Singapore who are self-employed is actually staggeringly high.
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's actually proven during the time when we do or when they are starting that SIRS initiative. The first week was crazy. You can barely go into the system because, and even ATUC server actually nearly was crashed
It crashed. It crashed. It crashed. It didn't nearly. It crashed.
Yeah, it crashed. So this is the overwhelming number of people in Singapore that they are actually who are actually self-employed, not just actors and all. And then yet people are not treating the same or are not seeing self-employed or freelancers, not just people in the art industry, but freelancers as a whole as people who are contributing to the society. I just find it like, it's a bit weird in a way. It's like we have so many people who are actually in that category, and yet, we are not being treated seriously in a way by the country as a whole. That is the biggest criticism that I find that right now.
I think it's a cultural problem, like the whole like um the whole like Asian or Singaporean dream uh where you go to school and then you get good grades, you go to a JC, you serve your NS, you go to uni, and then you come out and find a good paying job, and then you find someone to marry, have kids, and then grow old and die. That sort of thing. Yeah. So you just you live a pretty decent life. You you live a well, I would say, it can be fulfilling, definitely. You just live, you just exist, and then you play your part, play your role in the system, and then one day you're not here anymore. Yeah, you just like that, lor. Like I think a lot of people go into self-employment for one reason, because we feel that we want to follow um we want to follow what we want to follow our passion, we want to do what we like to do, and we want to make a career out of it. And I don't think that we should be punished for it. Because I don't know if you've ever had this experience at Andric or SK, right? For example, like when you meet like a client, or you're having a discussion with a friend, and they tell you, hey, wow, running your own business, quite shiok, huh? Can do anything anytime you want, and all that. Or they ask you why you charge so much, because you're doing what you like, what? So we should be happy that I'm giving you the opportunity to do what you like, that sort of thing. Have you ever encountered people like that?
Of course. Of course,
Yeah,
of course.
I have some even worse comments in my teaching industry. Like I charge a certain rate, and then they will not only say those things, but they also will say like, you are doing something that you like, but look at us, we are suffering, as we want the best for our kids, but we really cannot afford the amount that you have. And can you please, for the sake of what you like, and for the benefit of my kids, for the benefit of everybody, we just set this certain amount. Like they literally guilt trip the hell out of me.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, how to say, it's quite annoying, right? When they perceive that we should take it easy on them because not happy in their jobs, or whatever, But I always think that it's a opportunity cost, man. Nobody is stopping you from doing what you like to do. What if you don't like to work in this job? Why are you there? If you don't like to have kids, why do you have kids? That sort of thing.
I mean, that is really on them, but they like to put it on us.
Yeah, exactly. They project all the issues onto us, and sometimes I'm like, okay, okay, maybe yes, we recognize the privilege that, okay, we are fortunate enough to be able to do what we want, um to be able to turn our passion into a career, but we sacrifice a lot of other things that they do not see. Like, for example, we sacrifice the ability to go on holidays every year without like expensive holidays. We sacrifice the you
A
know
social
the
life, even sometimes.
social life sometimes. Yes, we sacrifice a lot. There's a lot of financial sacrifice involved, that's for sure, because of people like that. Basically, we are rebels of the system because we don't follow the uh, established norms of, oh, you must get married by a certain age, you must have kids by a certain age, you must do this thing by a certain age. So we do really like go against the grain quite a fair bit. Yeah, I don't think we should be punished for doing that at all.
Okay.
And not to mention, sometimes it's really our circumstances that we decided to do what we are doing, or choose to do what we like to do. And the thing is, there won't be any other opportunities that some of us can go to if we don't choose that route. but yet, circumstances force us to do what we did. But, people will look at it as, since we are doing what we like to do, without looking at why, they will just simply assume that we are definitely going to have a better life than they do. So it's kind of weird in a way when I think about that when you think about it.
Don't you think that this is actually an issue that even with or without COVID that we'll always be facing?
That's true, that's true. But because of I think because of the article and because of COVID, right? It has brought the issue into the spotlight, I guess.
Do you think things are getting better?
Honestly, I don't know much about what I don't know much about what the public perception might be at the current time, but I really have to say that the government is not closing its eyes or ears to us lah. I mean, from what I know that might not be at liberty to share like a lot of things, but yeah, they are definitely listening and they have sought us out to talk about it lah. So there's definitely some engagement going on there. Yeah, and a lot of the grant schemes and stuff that you see and the new things that they are coming out, they're all like products of this engagement. Hopefully there is something that will help us to tide through this crisis, whether or not we go into another circuit breaker. I mean, there's a lot of people who say that the government doesn't want to go into a circuit breaker because they don't want to come up with all the new support schemes, but the new current measures already stop a lot of people from working. People are already like suffering and you know what, like because of last year, right, I think a lot of people burned through their savings just trying to survive, and then this is just like the second wave of needing to survive. So I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to survive this if this is prolonged for any longer. The uncertainty is the problem.
Okay, I don't want to sound like I'm siding with the government or whatsoever, but I personally do feel that the government themselves are seeing that aspect quite clearly, because considering the fact that the economy hit so badly last year with that kind of growth, they definitely would not want to go into circuit breaker as much as they could, which is what they are trying to say, definitely. But at the same time, I just feel that in a way, this situation is not going to be getting better, and they are also very well aware of it. So every one of us are trying to mitigate the damages as little as possible. That's what I always constantly feel. And that is also one thing with regards to this pandemic is not going to go off anytime soon, and yet I don't even know how people can stay positive all this while and still continue to say, we can do it, we can still pull through even up to then, because even I have to admit myself that at times I also feel like a bit discouraged.
I mean, what SK says has a point, because not just is it affecting us on a personal level, on a financial level, and on a career scope, it's even affecting our social economy as a whole. Not only do we have a lot less opportunities or chances to provide for ourselves and or our family, we're not just limited to our homes, that we're limited to our countries because of this pandemic. It's not just affecting Singapore, it's affecting the whole world, the entire world. A lot of things, like a lot of luxuries like travel has been restricted, and just taking travel away is already making a lot of Singaporeans a little bit crazy. The upcoming looming possibility of a second circuit breaker is already a lot worse than last year's. Honestly, last year when they announced circuit breaker, or during through the process of phase 1, phase 2 and this kind of thing, right, you do see some crazy Singaporeans going a bit off the rails. I mean, you see articles on CNA or on Straits Times or even on Mothership. But this year, it's really getting a lot worse, because the one article that really struck a chord with me, right, that made me feel a bit scared of this whole thing was xenophobia. I mean, you do have to give props to our government that our country is handling the virus pretty well compared to some other countries, I mean, say India or maybe even Malaysia. We are handling it pretty well to even be able to open up our country to very small amounts of maybe certain people from other countries to come in here for some medical assist. But because of that, it is now taking sort of an effect on us as well. Because of that, in a way, the Indian variant has now reached our shores. And through that, you actually see in more and more articles nowadays that xenophobia is rising. Literally, I think just a couple days or a week ago, we saw this article where this man in Pasir Ris Park was shouting at an Indian family, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that is actually very scary to me because it's not something that is usually reported in the news in Singapore for a long time already. Yeah, so I just think that this whole thing on a social level is actually really, really kind of scary.
How to say, like I'm not trying to justify like I'm not trying to justify xenophobia, but I think okay, sometimes racists will use whatever situation they can to their advantage to, you know, jump on, and this time it just so happens that the variant of the virus comes from India, right? Yeah, but I would say that uh the government should have known that this was happening. I mean, the facts are very clear. Like, um, unfortunately, people have been the Indian government has not been taking this very seriously. They've been more concerned with, holding their elections, which is kind of like crazy. And people are dying left, right, center in India. The facts are clear. They've been doing so since April, right? At least. But for some reason, the government just refuse to close the borders, and then that's number one. Number two is that if you look at the the recent hoo-ha over Jade Rasif's encounter with MOM and her maid, it's clear that they're not very strict on the quarantine measures as well. So well, it's true to say that the government did a pretty good job in the beginning. I think they've become complacent. I think uh they would have seen this coming. They would have seen this coming. Uh, but they took a gamble that it might not be so serious, and they lost.
I think it's yeah. I think to be honest, I have a different perspective when it comes to this uh this 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 particular part about gambling. But yeah, they are gambling. They are definitely gambling. But my perspective is okay. I read an article about the amount of things or the number of things that is imported or the number of goods that is imported from India. Particularly a lot of business related stuff like machineries, steels, iron, aluminiums. India is the one of the biggest producers for all these different materials, which for business aspect they is very crucial for many of the businesses, especially factories and all. And the construction sites, the construction workers aside, including this. And if you know about tradings and you know about traveling, tradings, human movements, all these things, you will know that they are all hand in hand. Traveling goods or yeah, goods travels and human traveling for borders are always hand in hand. So it's a very tricky subject to do. And if in honesty, I felt that they are in a lose-lose situation because the government cannot say, oh, I just cut off immediately without thinking about other options. Like where to get all these materials from, where to get all these things from. And they have to try to mitigate this as much as possible, to mitigate the damage as much as possible. But I do find that in this case, they don't have much of a choice. They have to still open a little bit, especially with regards to all this. But at the same time, they know very well that this is going to happen. But what I feel that is that they don't have much of a choice until they can only react if it's too serious enough, like what is currently happening right now. Because there's no way anyone or like Singapore has no natural resources. These things, which a lot of businesses require in order to function, becomes a very crucial thing for them to have. But yet, only until when things are getting so serious, then they can say, "Oh, I can just cut it off." So I think that in a way, the government is also in a very like what Lawrence Wong said before. Minister Lawrence Wong said before is they are running on the knife's edge, and they admitted it very very clearly because there is no way they can do anything any time earlier without affecting any of the economy or the businesses ahead. And this has been shown that if you blockade anything quite like you do what Taiwan did, you did what New Zealand did. We did for 2 months during the circuit breaker, and our economy nearly crashed badly. So it's one of those times that I think if anyone in that position is going to have a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, but SK, you mentioned something exactly what I was thinking about, that I was wondering how to segue into it, which is you said that the government only acts when it's too late, which I 100% agree. So here's my question to you both. Do you guys think that one for our government it really they are acting a little bit too late? And two, would things be better if, say, they had jumped on circuit breaker straight away instead of slowly rolling back to phase 2, phase 1 kind of stuff? Because when circuit breaker hit us last year, April to June, that 2 months was the toughest for most Singaporeans. But you do have to admit, financially, yes, it was not good. I also agree with SK that our market did sort of took quite a dip, but it helped. It helped our situation. There were a lot less cases. The circuit breaker worked, in short. Okay, but this time they are still going the long route. That the Indian variant came to Singapore, you see a rise in cases, but instead of jumping on the circuit breaker straight away, they what I just said, they slowly are rolling back to phase 2. Whereas what Malaysia did, I do have to say, Malaysia, partly because they are big also lah. Their country is very, very big. But in the recent months, I think what they did correctly was, as long as there is a spike in something, right, there's no, like phase 1, phase 2 is straight away MCO. No discussion one. And it is helping the regions that are under the MCO lockdown.
Australia is doing something quite similar. If I'm not wrong, Perth or Melbourne or something. One case only they close for 3 days.
Exactly.
That sort of thing. Yeah. So yeah, I do think that the government should be a bit more proactive. I've always been a supporter of a more proactive government, because you see the thing is I understand how they operate. They work based on data. But and that's fine because data covers your backside. But sometimes uh like how to say, because you're the leadership, right? Sometimes taking a bit of proactive action won't really hurt that much, and it might turn out to be better. Yeah, that's what I feel. Like, cause if you act on data all the time, that's why you're gonna get things like uh that's why we are always one step behind other people, because we wait for the data to show itself.
I mean, to a layman like me, right, I actually did not make the intellectual connection that they are acting on data. To me, it has just always seemed like, oh, we are only going to circuit breaker because our neighboring countries are all on lockdown as well, so we follow law.
They're actually following on data. If you notice that they're constantly talking about data, like safe entry is data, and the idea that right now this is the number that they have. They're constantly talking about numbers and numbers. So in a way, yeah. So I can see where Best is coming from. Yeah, they are very, very reactive towards whatever data is given. And I would say that for me to look at this is, I hope that they can be proactive also. But at the same time, I don't know whether being proactive in a lockdown, how much damage, how much how much recovery can it really help, and how much damage can it actually affect? What is the ratio? How what is the ratio towards both of
Yeah,
them?
I mean, hindsight is always 2020, right? But if you look at the pattern of like how they've been doing things, it's like, okay, uh, we see that we don't really want the economy to be affected, so we don't want to like go total lockdown. We don't want to close our borders and all that stuff. And then they took a gamble on that, and then outbreak happened, economy affected anyway, and it might even be worse now. So sometimes a bit of proactiveness does help in the long run, and it helps to show that your leaders have some sort of foresight as well. because you see, the thing is, what I really didn't like is that I know we have like maybe a couple of a few people who don't who breach the rules. There are people, people like Terence Tao, people like those Angmo at the at Lazarus Island. They got caught, and they get fined and all that stuff, right? So there are people like that for sure, 100%. But for most of the part, right, most of us have been actually doing our part to, you know, contain the spread of the virus. We wear our mask properly. We don't gather. We don't gather. We don't break the rules. Uh, but the problem is like, uh, we do that because we trust that whatever they are saying, uh, is the right thing to do. So, and then we trust them. We trust them, to protect us, to protect us from the virus. So by not being proactive enough to close our borders to the country that's been having the largest spike of cases and deaths in the past month, that has led to where we are today, which is we are wondering whether we're going to face another circuit breaker or not. So that's why I say they gamble and they lost. And even if I say that they act on data, right, this time they clearly did not act on data.
As Basil has said, that us as Singaporeans or whoever that have been staying here for the past year are doing our part. Like we go out, we wear masks, we do contact tracing and trace together. We try not to touch as many things as possible. We try not to go to crowded places and things like that. We have been doing a part, which is the only reason why our numbers have not been spiking in the thousands. That's the only reason.
Correct.
Which is one of the things that I would say that, like I said, again, not trying to side on the government whatsoever, but I kept thinking that it is this time I'm definitely agree with Bess that they didn't act on data with regards to the India's situation, especially they really took the Indian's PM's word for it when in the initial part where the Indian was the Indian prime minister was constantly saying that, oh, we are not going on a lockdown again, this will be the last resort, our current numbers are actually quite safe, etc., in the beginning before the spike. And then the country started opening up. They have the election was one of them. Prior to that, they have a Hindu religious event, they have a cricket event. All these things actually, all these three things, major spreader event that caused the whole thing. And I don't know if it's because they just take the words of the the Indian PM's word for it and go, okay, let's slowly open things up with India. And
No lah. I don't think so lah. I don't think they're that for lack of better word, dumb. Yeah.
but this time round, but at the same time, I will also say that we are at a state whereby we have to be more of focusing on our own to make sure that we are doing our part. That's what I kept believing in. And
Oh, of course.
yeah. And in terms of the government did not do well and was etc. They didn't do well. But at the same time, no matter how much I would say about them, whatever difficulties they experience is already secondary. But like what Beth said, is really us now, up to us to really do our part and just try our best to make sure that we still follow whatever restriction that is given.
Yeah. Which is the thing. Which is the thing that might be a problem in the future because, you know, as much as Singaporeans have different political allegiance, when the government of the day says, okay, wear your mask, practice your safe distancing, make sure you wash your hands properly, majority of the people will follow because end of the day we understand that we are doing this to keep our family safe, correct? But then like I mentioned earlier, we do this and we place our trust in them to make sure that our country is safe from the virus. So, they have the vaccination programs that are coming up, blah, blah, blah. The public education on all the hygiene practices, they're changing, they hired safe distancing ambassadors, etc., etc. And then they failed at the very point of entry, which is the airport. They failed the quarantine process, So when the government fails to to do what they're supposed to do properly, the trust in from the people is eroded. And then the next time when they tell you to do something, will you? That's the thing. Which is what I fear actually. Because if we're gonna go into another circuit breaker, right? I really think that there's gonna be a lot more people being caught doing stupid things. Because we really just cannot stand it anymore. And you have to consider that it's not just the economic or or the career or whatever. You have to consider people's mental health also.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the mental health issues.
But granted that the number of people who are doing stupid things during the first and or possibly second circuit breaker is still a very small percentage of actual Singaporeans lah.
Of course, but once the trust in the government is eroded, uh, then there's gonna be a lot more other people taking advantage of this, uh, like like this broken trust, and things are just gonna go haywire from there.
I think that right now I genuinely think that, like what Bear said, the trust is already broken quite some time ago. In fact, I'm pretty sure that since last year, actually, a lot of trust has been sort of broken already. And I would say that the way that the whole situation is right now is, if the government is really good enough to do damage control, I think they should start doing it now. But right now, I don't see them doing any damage control more so than trying to just get, oh, let's get this thing settled first. Let's get that thing settled first. That kind of situation. They are not realizing, like what Basil say, that the trust is already broken. I think you don't need another circuit breaker to react to it. Just this xenophobic response that we are seeing right now is already a breach of trust between the people and the government. If you notice that.
I think it's just unfortunate that the cases just happen to come from India. Because if okay, can you imagine? I mean, last year there was a lot of like there was a lot of hatred spread towards China and fair skinned Asians. Right? So this year it just unfortunately happens to be the Indians. So it's obviously a problem, but I can't see it ending anytime soon.
It won't. It's probably gonna stay for a while. But
It's quite sad lah.
to be honest, I don't know how I don't know how the government can recover this kind of trust back from the people. I'm genuinely honest. And for my mindset is that it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Let's just say and agree that in the coming months in Singapore, it's gonna be very confusing. There might be a little bit of panic here and there, but for the most part, most people will know what to do lah, especially work wise, because we have had that 1 year to prep and get used to the current lifestyle already. It's just that we are rolling back lor.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are happy to go back to work from home lah, to be honest.
Yeah, I can see from some of my friends who responded. But quite honestly speaking, the whole of, I don't know, the way that, guys like the ministers like Lawrence Wong has been constantly saying that, we'll see the result within 2 or 3 weeks time. I don't even know whether or not to be optimistic enough to trust what they have said just for that.
I think that is something that you needn't need to worry yourself with, because it's definitely out of your control. So I guess just do our part. Just do your part. Wear a mask when you go out. Wear the proper surgical mask with proper filtration. Wash your hands. Practice safety distancing. Do your contact tracing and stay home as much as you can lah. I mean, even if you're not thinking on a country level, think for your family lor, and for yourself ah.
In fact, the weird thing is, I'm not trying to bash vaccination or whatsoever. I actually got vaccinated, but the fact that the initial reason for me to getting the vaccination is really trying to, hope that I can protect my loved ones. Which the ironic part is, after the whole, like some of these positive cases, they got hit with with the virus, even though it seems like they did not get into serious situation, like they need to go ICU. But the weird part is, this does show one thing, is that it helps to protect us to not get serious infections. But but we are still the carrier, so it led to it led to a worry as well for like people like me, like, hey, I vaccinated already, but it protects me, but it's not going to protect my family if I'm not careful enough.
Yeah, if they don't get vaccinated, right?
But there have been some cases of some people who have already been fully vaccinated still contracting the disease for a second time, and it's the stronger variant now.
But it won't kill them. So yeah.
It won't kill them, but
they'll just get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they are carriers. So that is the biggest concern. Yeah. It's not like, even for me, I'm not worried now, right now, because I'm fully vaccinated. I'm not concerned about me getting it. I'll be fine. But I'm worried about the people around me, because I will be the carrier, which is something that a lot of people, especially people who vaccinated, did not see that portion. And I if this is a PSA for them, like, it's just probably going to let them know that you still have to do whatever you need to take.
Yeah. I think they should have done vaccinations by a family unit or by your postal code.
Right? Not by age group, right?
Not by age group. Yeah, really not by age group. It's like for example, like, oh, okay, today this neighborhood in Bedok, tomorrow that neighborhood in Tampines, that kind of thing.
By region, no?
Yeah, correct. I think they should have done that.
Okay lah. So in short, in today's episode, it's a bit long, it's a bit heavy, but I think we barely scratched the surface of what we could have possibly talked about. So we don't want to get too deep and too political about it. There are still a lot of things we can talk about. Let's just not get into it so deep, especially on the first episode lah. But if you guys out there who are listening enjoy what we are talking about, that is a very real life issue, let us know. We might be able to talk about it in the future, or if our measures actually step up to be even more strict and stringent, or if it loosens up, we might talk about it again also. But other than that, we hope that you enjoy our content here on Prod.cast, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.